see that there are so many people talking about the international issue from both sides, and I would like to move a matter of urgency that actions to be taken to restore harmony and social cohesion within Australian Chinese community in the city of Ryde.
Happy to accept that, and it'll be up to councillors to decide whether or not it's urgent. No, vote whether or not it's urgent, and then we'll start debating the matter. Councillor Lane? Whether or not it's urgent. Councillor Zhao, you have a motion you'd like to put to the council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Amanda, for receiving my email put on the screen. And if you can you please print out a copy and give to every councillor just for their convenience to read. At the meantime, Mr. Mayor, I would like to speak about this motion, just giving everyone a background.
Just for procedural, we just need a seconder, just for the purpose. Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Okay, off you go.
Thank you. As you all know, that I can communicate in both Mandarin and Cantonese, and I have a community office in the center of Eastwood. So there are so many residents, when they have issues, when they have real local issues, they come talk to me. And my experience on this one is that before the 25th of June, no one came to me raising any concern or spoke about that at all. But after that day, after that night, we pass a resolution, people start visiting me and raising concerns. Well, when we were debating on the international politics last time, to my knowledge, the extradition law was suspended or deferred in Hong Kong Parliament before our last council meeting. And when we talk about this again in this council meeting, the discussion in Hong Kong for this extradition law in Parliament is officially turned off. Is that because of us? Is that because of we, City of Ryde, pass a resolution and send a letter to their government? No, obviously it's not. We can't make a difference. But what I can see is that in the gallery today, people start talking against each other. And on one Chinese article about this on Sydney Today, I saw 500 comments online, and most of them are full of hatred. So I have concerns, and especially after listening to all the people today, I have concerns that we misuse our resource for our community. And I have stronger concern that our community are misused by someone with a hidden agenda for their own political gain, or it's a dangerous game. It can cause political damage as well. To restore this, I would like to speak for all this spoken community that in response to the above, I move that council affirms that City of Ryde supports and values harmony and social cohesion within the Australian Chinese community, opposes any protest that encourage illegal acts and acts of violence, consults the Multicultural Advisory Committee seeking its advice on ways to enhance social cohesion and community harmony, in particular, seeking its advice on whether or not foreign politics should be publicly debated in future council meetings. Consults the City of Ryde's Australian Chinese community groups for feedback and suggestions for furthering community harmony within the local government area. Thank you. That's my idea about the motion, and I encourage all the councillors to read through the paper we hand out to you. And I want to earn your support on this. Our community needs our help. I would like everyone to take leadership and take responsibility to fix this problem and support our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zhao. We did see some interesting scenes in the gallery tonight, and without commenting on the issue itself, I do think it's important for our community to come together, because that's what we do here in Ryde, and that's what we do in Sydney and Australia. We're harmonious because we come together. And why I'll be supporting your motion is because that's what you're seeking to do. In absence of the issue, you want to bring both communities together. Whilst I'll disagree with one element of your motion, and that's that we should discuss foreign politics, because I don't think we should be restricted on that. But we'll see what the committee has to say. We just had a motion on foreign politics earlier today that was unanimous. In future, we may have the right to, we should always have the right to debate foreign politics where it's in our community's interests. But why I will support your motion is because it involves the the Multicultural Advisory Committee. It attempts to bring the Australian Chinese community together, and I think that's very important at a time where communities are divided overseas. That's why people will move to Australia, because they come together. So that's why I'm happy to support your motion tonight, and I look forward to seeing the advice of the committee and continuing to work together with all community groups in Ryde, be they Armenian, be they Australian Chinese, be they born in Hong Kong or born in Mauritius, where my dad's from. I think that's important that we do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't help noticing the Liberals have all left the room. So who knows what's coming. Talking of politics, most people are aware that I'm a member of the Greens, and the Greens are based on four pillars, which grassroots participatory, grassroots democracy, social justice, peace and non-violence, along with ecological sustainability. So whenever the option is put before me, whenever the choice is put before me, I will always vote in favour of democracy, in favour of human rights, in favour of peace, in favour of harmony. For that reason, I support Councillor Zell's motion, although I would like to make one change, if you don't mind, and that's picking up on the Mayor's point. It's in point C, the second sentence, in particular seeking advice through. I'd like to drop that sentence. For the reasons that the Mayor has just given, I reserve the right to be able to talk about anything that I feel represents the community in some way or other. And there are a number of people here tonight who feel like they've been represented, and there are a number of people here tonight who feel like they have not been represented. And everybody's had a chance to speak, and that's what democracy is. So I would like to just remove that one sentence, and I think everything else about that is fantastic. I wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to keep my original motion. The reason is that it's It's not a determination. It's leave this discussion to the advisory committee, so people with more multicultural background can comment on that, and we consider their feedback.
Okay. Councillor Kim.
So now, are we up to the amendment stage, or what's happened here? So I think Councillor Gordon seeked an amendment, or you seeked an improvement and you rejected it. Are you happy with that, or would you like to go with the amendment?
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Look, I would like to make an amendment. I feel like it's setting up a time bomb for the future. We need to be very clear that people can talk as they believe, and not put restrictions, and so that we have some people from the community saying, you can't talk about that because we said you can't. I respect Councillor Zoe immensely. He knows that. And I know he respects me too. But on this, I feel very strongly that this sentence needs to go.
So you've moved the amendment, Councillor Gordon. Do we have a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Clifton. Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just waiting to read the amendment. So can you just highlight the part that's amended, please? Leaving that in. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know where I'm going to start with this. Everything's just gone so mad and crazy. The reason we started all this motion back last month was because, as you all know, I'm from Korean background and I grew up in a country where it used to be authoritarian, almost like a communist party now in China. And then we became liberated and become democratic through loss of many lives of Korean students. And I know what it's like to not grow up in an area where there's no democracy. And in a way, I felt that that's what the Hong Kong people must be going through now. I didn't start this motion to split up Hong Kong Chinese from mainland Chinese, or from Malaysian Chinese, or Taiwanese Chinese, or Australian Chinese, or Indonesian Chinese. The whole point of motion was simply to uphold the rights and freedom of speech, human rights, and democracy. I mean, after all, we are all living in Australia. We know how important democracy is. You know how important freedom is. That's the very reason why we're living in this country. Just think about what it'd be like for us if we live in this country and somebody was to pass a law that can take you, grab you from Australia, and take you to China, and be tried under the Chinese court, which apparently has no fair hearing. And we know this story. Only in the last couple of days, we hear stories of Australian Chinese activists who went back to China. And story is that he was a local journalist here. And when he went back to China, he's been detained, he's been jailed. And the reason is because he spoke against the interest of China. Maurice Payne, Australian Foreign Minister, spoke on the came out on a newspaper and on the record. She said, well, she's trying to help them, but they're not listening to her. And the Chinese response is, well, this person is a dual citizen. It's none of your business. And they think Australian government seeking the livelihood of Australian citizens in China is a foreign interference. Let's go back to this extradition law. I think one of the speakers, a guy called Felix Lowe, I think he said, well, this law's been around for a long time. Yes, this law's been around for 23 years, extradition law. It's never been a problem. The problem is this new amendment. Why? Because amendment is was allowing the Chinese government to extradite people from Hong Kong back to the country. The current extradition law doesn't have that. It actually does guarantee people of Hong Kong their right to stay in Hong Kong and not be extradited to another country for a court hearing or criminal sentencing. Then you think about what is a crime. Obviously, what we talk about freedom of speech here, I can call somebody here and we can have a difference in political opinion. That's fine. I have no issues with that. And that's why Australia is a democratic country. I can understand where you're coming from. You can understand where I'm coming from. We'll have a difference of opinion. We may argue about it, but guess what? At the end of the day, we agree to disagree and we walk away. We still happily live with each other. But they don't do that over there, apparently. Apparently, if you speak against the country or against the party, you get jailed. And that's apparently what's happened to Australian Chinese citizen who went over there to visit his parents in China, and they're locked up in a jail. And we can't get them back. This is not only an Australian story. You've heard Dr. Lin Bin spoke today. That's what's happened with the Hong Kong bookshop journalist or reader who was in Hong Kong, went to China, disappeared. So what are we doing here? Am I protecting... I'm not trying to be political here. I'm not trying to interfere with what's happening in China. All I'm doing, talking about, is the human rights and democracy. Okay. And so on this motion, Mr. Mayor, I actually, in principle, I agree with this. In every opportunity we should strive to come with a harmony. Yes, harmony just means you and I may disagree, but we still live with each other. Good thing about Australia is underneath our citizenship, we're all Australian citizens, most of us citizens, right? It means I'm a Korean Australian, you're Chinese Australian, you might be Hong Kong Australian, but guess what? We're all Australians. We have something common here we can bind together to come to harmony. So I think it is important to facilitate this organization where people get together and discuss this issue and come up with a solution so that they can all live in a harmony. I think in principle, I think that's noble and I support it. What I don't like about this motion though is this. As you know, you saw today, this is the first time I've seen something that's happening in front of my eyes, that you have so-called pro-Chinese group, which is Hugh Lee, which is Dr. Felix Lowe, and who's the other one? And there's another two people here who's speaking in support of Chinese, of pro so-called China. Okay, I'm not trying to split you up. I'm just talking about general principle here. And then you had a whole lot of other people, Dr. Lin Bin, and then you have Master Wong, who's from, I presume, is more freedom, more human rights, or so-called what we call pro-Hong Kong group. Okay. If you send them up, if you send this issue up to our multicultural community, guess what? About 5 or 6 of those members are so-called pro-China. Especially is chaired by Councillor Simon Zoe, who is apparently declared pro-China. In other words, you send this matter to that committee, there will be absolutely no voice for the other side. Therefore, I think in principle, our effort to harmonize this community is good, but in effect, what you're doing is sending this matter to a committee where only one of those two opposing parties will have a decision, will have a say. Therefore, I'd like to make further amendments if possible. I'm happy to accept everything on the motion, pretty much, I think. Although it just came up, so I haven't read the whole thing thoroughly. But on Part C, Consulting Multicultural Advisory Committee, Siki, that's all fine. And I'm happy to accept Councillor Gordon's amendment, allow the political debate. There's nothing wrong with that.
So this is you're just notifying a foreshadowed amendment. So you can't actually have an amendment on the screen until this amendment is voted
If
upon.
I say you're willing to accept, can you do that? Can I improve the amendment?
Well, that's up to Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, that's what I'm... Which one? Yeah. So basically what I'm foreshadowing is we allow this group of people here who's representing a so-called pro-Hong Kong, okay, or the Freedom Human Rights Group to be included in the Multicultural Committee so that when this matter is debated at the committee, you will have two opposing sides having an argument, coming up with a real solution rather than giving to one group to pretty much dictate the outcome of the problem solving.
My understanding, Councillor Kim, is that any member of the public can be a member of the Multicultural Advisory Committee through application. So if people want to join it, they can at any time. So I don't know what Councillor Gordon wants to do with the amendment, but nothing's stopping people joining the committee. So they can join at their will. Yep. Sorry, you don't have the who's next? Councillor Lane, and then
just redo the line.
Okay, sure. What was your question, Councillor Kim? Might have to take that on notice, Councillor Kim. We're not quite sure. Well, they can make an application and staff will process it, and that'll come to council as a staff report, and they can be admitted if they want to join. We'll get back to you, Councillor Kim, and just let the debate continue on. Who's next?
Councillor Purcell. I'm afraid I don't agree with the amendments. I'd like to back Councillor Zoe fully in his bid to create harmony, and may I add, he is only asking to look into, seek advice, have discussion. We're not planning a law here. We're not trying to change anything. We're just trying to get back to some normality where an issue, which I don't think has caused, is it hatred? But it has been divisive, and I would like to see an end to it as quickly as possible, and I back Councillor Zoe's amendment motion fully, and hope the other councillors do too.
Councillor Pedersen?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, can I see the original, is that the original one? Yeah, so it doesn't matter what advice Councillor Zhao seeks, as Councillor Purcell points out, it's just a discussion. So if he seeks, a discussion about this and invites anyone in the community to attend one of these meetings and discuss this issue, we'll need a bigger room, of course, but it's not going to be make any laws, or they can't pass motions and resolutions at these meetings. They can discuss issues and offer advice to councillors, but things get changed here. They don't get changed at these meetings. So I support Councillor Zhao's motion.
Just getting back to you, Councillor Kim, the next meeting is on the 29th of August of the Multicultural Advisory Committee, and the next council meeting is on the 27th of August. So the report, if applications come in within the next week, then they'll be processed by staff and a report will be brought back to council on the 27th to allow for maximum participation from all communities. And let's not forget, in this committee, we've got members of the Armenian community, the local Lebanese community, all communities. And that's what I think is the spirit of Councillor Zo's motion. I think a characterisation otherwise is not fair on members of the committee and not fair on the chair, who I believe acts impartially. And as Councillor Pedersen said, simply getting a recommendation. I've stated my personal view on whether or not we should be gagged on foreign politics, but whether that stays or doesn't stay in the motion, I think is irrelevant. That's why I'm happy to back the Deputy Mayor on this matter and move forward. And I look forward to what the committee gets up to. I think you're right, Councillor Pedersen. We will need a bigger room. Councillor Lane.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've just got a quick question, maybe to Councillor Zoe as the mover of the motion. One of the big things that was discussed this evening was that perhaps councillors weren't completely informed or aware of what they were voting on when it came to council at the last meeting. It's very clear from the people that spoke tonight and the preamble to this motion that it is in response to the vote that occurred in June. But what's not clear to me is that the motion as it's written actually doesn't make any reference to that vote or what transpired in June. So just for my own benefit, you've obviously received a lot more feedback from the community than I have on this issue. In what way does moving and supporting this motion tonight relate back to what occurred last month? Because that's what I'm struggling to see. I actually completely support all the statements that you have made. I don't have any issue with that, but I'm struggling to draw the link between what occurred last month and how and what moving this motion tonight will achieve in relation to that. So if you've got some comment on that, that might help me just form my view.
Councillor Zhao, you can take that on notice and get back to Councillor Lane, or you can give an answer now if you'd like. That's.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry, I'm going to allow you to do that. I don't wish to speak to the motion. I do wish to ask a question or make a statement, and that is to recognise that many of the people who spoke publicly at the microphone are no longer here, and I dare say, maybe 2/3, 3/4 of the interested parties are not present. And I wonder what opportunity we have to identify this course of action tonight, given that it's an urgency motion. It won't be known or recognised by many of those people, and they simply won't be aware of our intention tonight, irrespective of the vote and how that pans out. So I wonder what opportunity there is to include them in this discussion, because I think they should be, they've clearly come up, they expect to have a view, to express that view and to be part of this consultation process. So I do hope we can advise them. I don't know how, via letter or email or mayoral minute or advertisement. I don't know how you want to do it. The second thing I'd say is that if we do send this to the Multicultural Committee, it is a very broad and diverse group reflecting non-Chinese. There are Indians, Armenians, Italians, everyone from all walks of life, from every corner of the earth. And for them, I think they may not want to participate in this discussion. It's a discussion that is unique and concentrated, not one that is broad necessarily, and I wonder how you intend to tackle that outcome, given that A, we recognise we need a bigger room, and B, it's not necessarily applicable for many people on your committee, Councillor Zhao.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Councillor Zhao, so the motion states that you consult that you move that we consult the Multicultural Advisory Committee, seeking its advice on ways to enhance social cohesion, community harmony, in particular seeking its advice on whether or not foreign politics should be publicly debated in future council meetings. It makes no reference to what happened, as Councillor Lane points out. So therefore it is broad, and that's the whole idea of this. I mean, and that's the crux of the debate tonight from most people who spoke, was it's not our place to debate foreign policy in this place, in this chamber. And I think that that's a discussion that needs to be had, that these people want to have. It's not necessarily, well, it is obviously about something in particular. Isn't it better? Isn't it better to take those people who are highly emotional about this issue out of, or broaden it out, so there's people from different backgrounds who can discuss this? I think it's actually good to have a very broad cross-section of people in the committee to discuss whether we, as councillors or as council, should be discussing these issues in the council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pedersen. Councillor Zhao, you may wish to respond to that in your right of reply. Councillor Pedersen, your right of reply, Councillor Zhao.
Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, friends who you talk today. Well, first of all, in my right of reply, I would like to declare again, and just to let everyone know that we vote unanimously last time for democracy. Of course, we support democracy anywhere in the world, and we don't want to vote against democracy. And the reason just to answer your questions, the reason I bring this motion is that, one, we have to put more effort into this. And I heard a few suggestions from the community, and I would like to know whether that's a common feedback or it's only a suggestion from a couple of people. For example, people are talking about we writing to the foreign department, or sorry, the foreign government, right, to the Hong Kong chief executive, right, to foreign country officials about this issue, but it's a wrong channel. People suggest that we should write to our own foreign minister and make our position, and let our foreign minister and foreign department deal with any overseas issue. But I just don't want to, without enough research, without knowing the full background, I don't want to make a personal suggestion, put in a motion tonight. So, and also, as the mayor mentioned, all the advisory committees in this council is open to public. So if you want to make a comment, the people there are not, Councillor Kim, you haven't been attending that advisory committee for over a year, but just I want to bring back to your memory that committee is very multicultural. We have Chinese speakers, Korean speakers, Armenian speakers, Lebanese speakers, Indian speakers, so full of people that with similar background with us. The common background for us is we are migrants. We are immigrants, and myself is a first-generation immigrants. I'll feel very, very sorry to see that people with similar background, we come to Australia to avoid to avoid the environment that we didn't like. We come here to enjoy our life, and I don't want people to be divided and to fight against some irrelevant issue, far away from us. But look, that's my personal opinion. But I look forward to listening to us. Again, we'll always support democracy, but I want to minimize the confusion. I hope I can get all your support, and I hope I answer all your questions. Thank you.
Councillor Kim, that was the right of reply, so we'll need to vote on the amendment in the names of Gordon and Clifton. That just has that sentence removed. The amendment is carried and becomes the motion. the same motion without that sentence in there, so 99% there. Unanimous, fantastic. All right. Councillor Kim, you mentioned you had a matter of urgency as well on
Yes,
cladding, which I'll accept. So if you just want to explain it a little bit.